guys, Carlo Filippone here, your muscle chef, ready to talk to you about this guy, the chicken pound. What do we do with the chicken pound? We prepare grilled chicken in different flavors, 6 to be exact. If you're serious about bodybuilding and you meal prep, don't go anywhere else. This is the company for you.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Of course, all your questions on diet, training, whether that be from home, supplementation, IFBB pros, news, whatever's on your mind, life, the obvious, what's going on in this country and in the world for that matter. Whatever is on your mind, it is all on the table. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, we are now, I guess, in officially week 3 of everything's been going on. I know we're very careful to use the word because of YouTube's restrictions, but obviously it is still a very uncertain time for a lot of our viewers, for a lot of people around the world, everybody glued to their television sets trying to get the latest set of information. We're doing our part in terms of trying to keep things normal, at least in terms of the content that we've been providing. And one of the big home runs that we hit earlier this week that we're going to be releasing either today or tomorrow is the interview that you did with the legendary Frank Zane. If you want to give a little teaser for the audience as far as what they expect from that interview.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. Frank contacted me after the interview, and he wants to do a follow-up already. I mean, I wanted him to get more into the mind aspect of it, because that's really where his strength was as a competitor. And we didn't get that deep into it, so he's going to come back, I think, next week, and we're going to do a follow-up. But yeah, we talked about a bunch of different things, just in general, like what his philosophy was, and why he was a different bodybuilder than everyone else. He liked to isolate himself, prior to a contest. Like, he would train at his house by himself. No other Mr. Olympia in the history of the sport has ever done that. Most guys need to go to the gym. They want to be pushed by training partners and trainers and stuff. He just would kind of do his own thing, and he did something that a lot of guys didn't do back in the day. He would take thousands of pictures of himself. His wife is a photographer, and study the pictures, and he would take them in slides and project them up onto the walls, and he would study where he needed to make improvements and how his presentation was. So he was a very he did that way before anyone else ever thought to do anything like that, and so it was I enjoyed interviewing him. And he's an interesting guy, much different than the typical bodybuilder you would interview. He has a slightly different outlook on how he sees life, and so I enjoyed interviews like that. Talking about the the virus that everyone's dealing with now, Sid. I wore my this shirt I produced a couple of years ago. Actually, my good friend Rob Adamo, they used to be known as Tattoo Rob. He's no longer with us. Another guy who left us way too soon, died of cancer. But he designed the shirt for me, and I told him I want this logo. I wanted this slogan on a shirt, and the slogan is "Desire summons life force." Meaning that your desires that you have, if they're passionate enough and there's enough emotion behind them, they will summon the energy to create them and create them in the physical world. And we all intuitively know that. Our thoughts create our reality. But this shirt, I had told him the slogan, and he made this design for me, and I really liked it, and I printed it on t-shirts, and I really haven't promoted it much. I sell it on DavePalumbo.com. I think during this time where people need motivation, people need positive thoughts, I'm going to start wearing this shirt a lot more, because I want people to see this is my message I'm projecting. And if you guys want to wear, buy a shirt and wear it too, we have to project positivity now. We have to project our thoughts in a positive manner, because if we think negatively, we're going to attract more negativity to ourselves, and this virus is never going to go away. So we have to change the way we're thinking if we want the outcome to be different, and that's why I'm wearing this shirt right now. And it's also in memory of Rob, and he was a great friend of mine. So having said that, I just did a video, Sid, also dispelling a lot of the rumors and nonsense about, whether anabolic steroids are good or bad, different blood pressure medications, the best modalities to treat if you do get the virus. I put it all into a rant. It'll be up probably on the site. Probably people will get to see it today or tomorrow.
And then, of course, last night we released the latest episode of After Hours. And, again, we like to bring on different personalities, different opinions. I know last night's episode got a strong reaction. John Romano, Dave, you want to touch on that really quickly? Some very strong opinions, maybe contrary view to what a lot of people have, and I think that stirred up a lot of conversation as well.
Yeah, well, I told John during the interview, I said, John, you're like the Archie Bunker of the bodybuilding world. And so he called me this morning, and he said, am I really the Archie Bunker? I said, yeah, you are. I said, but that's good. You're a good Archie Bunker. Everyone loves Archie Bunker. No, John's take on the whole thing was that, look, there's a lot of people in China, and there's a lot of old people that they have to pay benefits to, and the Chinese, he feels, are culling the population, so to speak. Now, if you also listen to my interview, my rant I just did, this virus has been man-made. We know this for a fact. I was watching an interview with the doctor. I'm going to try to actually get him on the show and interview him. He has been following the synthesis or the construction of this virus. In other words, they take a common coronavirus and they modify it. And they do this in labs so they can test different animal models and how viruses infect people for research purposes. They actually took part of the HIV or AIDS virus and actually took the targets that attach to receptor sites, and they've taken those and added that to this virus. That's why this virus penetrates the cells so well. It's obviously an airborne virus like most coronaviruses are. So it has enhancements to it that make it much easier to catch this thing, okay? And once again, we know that this has been going on because it's all documented in scientific journal articles that have been, and most of the research is being done in Wuhan, China. So the virus definitely was made there. Now, the question is, was it released by accident or was it released on purpose? No one will ever admit to this. We'll never know for sure. John believes that it was released, on purpose, because it affects mostly older people, and they feel that China has too many people and that they're using it to get. I don't know if that's the case or not. It's John's opinion. John has a lot of strong opinions, And I thought it was an interesting, I like to explore interesting scenarios, and that's all we're doing because we don't know. It's scenarios. We're creating hypotheses and looking at different avenues, and that's what most of the YouTube channels and the news are doing right now. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. It doesn't really matter how the thing got into the environment at this point. It's how we treat it. What are we going to do to prepare ourselves? How do we fortify our immune system to combat this thing? Because most of us are going to get it. The quarantine is not to prevent us from getting it. It's to slow the transit or to slow the ability of us to get it. In other words, we can't all get it at once because we'll overwhelm the hospitals. And Sid, your wife's a doctor. She knows how crazy it is right now. So we have to slow down how people get it. And once we slow this virus a little bit down, we can catch up and treat it. So that's where we're at now. That's why it's important you guys stay home as much as possible. Wash your hands. Try to stay out of big crowds of people, just because the less chance you have of getting it, the better. Now, obviously, some people have to go to work and make a living, and I think they're actually, hopefully this quarantine will be lifted next month so that people can go back to work, at least the people who are not as vulnerable. Now, if you're an older person, if you're a smoker, if you're immunocompromised, you probably should keep yourself in isolation until we get a handle on how to deal with this.
I know my wife hates it when I talk about her on air, but, to her and to all the healthcare workers right now on the front line of all this, we thank you for everything that you're doing. And for anyone that's saying that this isn't real, the stories that she's told me personally, that she's had to deal with, being on the front line, this is very real. And all these cautions need to be taken in order to get us through this. Let's get to the questions. The first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience. That's the first question. Dave, when doing the in-home workouts that are body weight, how many sets and reps of the exercises should we do? Should we train the body part more than once a week? Like with push-ups, I can do upwards of 30 a set. Should I do each set to failure? Yeah,
it depends on how many push-ups you can do. When after I got my shoulders done, I literally couldn't do one push-up. I'm a guy who used to do 100 push-ups, easy. I couldn't do one push-up. I couldn't do one push-up on my knees. That's how weak I was. Now I do just about 20 push-ups, but it took me about 3 months to build up to that, if not more, maybe 6 months to build up to that. So if I'm going to do a push-up workout, okay, exclusively, I'm going to do probably, because I only do 20 at a time, I'll do 5 sets, of 20. So try to do 100 push-ups total. If you can do 30 push-ups at a time, you probably could do 3 sets of 30, 2 push-ups or something like that, get your 100 in. How often? You could do it 2-3 times a week, I guess, at this point, because, push-ups don't only work the chest, they work the triceps and the shoulders as well. So, and you could change the angle. One day you may do push-ups straight, one day you may do them with your feet up on a bed, so you get more of, the upper part and the delts. Another time you might, change the angle a different, to a slightly less angle. So you could play around with the dips. You can do, wider, and you can do them on chairs, 2 chairs. You could do them closer. The closer you do them, usually the more tricep you hit. How you keep your elbows out or in determines that. Pull-ups, obviously, you can do 2-3 times a week, because you really can't do a lot of pull-ups. Even if you did 3 sets of 10, if you can do 10, that would be great. Challenge yourself. You know what I mean? It's gonna, at first, you're not going to be able to do that much because you're not used to doing body weight. We're so used to using machines and free weights. That body weight is hard because there's a lot of stability involved in it. Squats, I've been doing air squats. I started with those. Then you can hold on to dumbbells if you want. I'm going to put my son on my back and on my shoulders, and I can do squats. So there's different ways you can do that. You can do lunges holding dumbbells. I don't, 3 workouts a week is pretty good, if you're doing everything. But what I would do is I would break it down into upper body, lower body. You could do body parts too. If you have a pair of dumbbells in the house, a couple pairs of dumbbells like I do, I could do arms with them. I could do shoulders presses and side laterals. I could do a lot of stuff with dumbbells. That's why I said look on Amazon Marketplace or Craigslist. You could find used dumbbells. People are always getting rid of them. Matter of fact, I can't tell you how many people emailed me saying, you know what, you were right. I got the cheapest set of dumbbells. I got dumbbells up to 50. I got dumbbells up to 70. Most people just want the crap out of their house because everyone buys weights and most people don't use them. And you would think during this time now where there's no gyms open that all the people that have these weights would want to keep them, but they don't. They don't care. They don't want to work out. They just want them out. They're cluttering up their house. I'm telling you, dumbbells are good because they don't really take up that much space. Now, I put a post on my Facebook, Sid, where they actually have these adjustable dumbbells where it looks like 2 dumbbells, but it's a rack, and you can kind of select how much you want on that dumbbell. So you don't need 15 different dumbbells. It's one thing. You just kind of push a select the size button, and it will put weight. And I think it was like 5 pounds up to 55 pounds for $89. I mean, order it. You can get them brand new. It'll ship it right to your house. You'll have it in a couple days. Check the link on my Facebook page. I'm telling you, that's the best deal in town. You can do almost everything with those. You're not going to be doing, dumbbell incline presses with 120s with those, but you could stimulate muscle a lot with that and get a very good workout in.
Second question again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, and we have been getting this question in different various forms over the course of the last couple of weeks for obvious reasons, but do you think of anabolics, the use of anabolics will help someone fight off the virus? If so, what would you use during this period? So I guess your virus fighting cycle.
Deja vu. I just did a rant on this. That's what I was referring to earlier. I did a complete rant on this topic. There was a fake article out there saying that anabolic steroids, they made it look like it was a journal article. I don't know if Tyler can find it, but probably not. And they made it look like it actually, anabolic steroids, like they scientifically studied this, killed off the coronavirus. The thing that people are getting confused about is that there are articles that say steroids are no good for the coronavirus. And that's because the medical community uses the term steroid when they're referring to catabolic steroids like prednisone or cortisone or corticosterone or all the other catabolic steroids. That's the ones they use medically because they're used in asthma and breathing issues, and people would think, well, oh, that's good. It reduces inflammation in the lungs. We can give that. But the problem is the catabolic steroids suppress the immune system, so you don't want to take those. Anabolic steroids theoretically do the opposite of what catabolics do. They don't suppress the immune system. As a matter of fact, they slightly enhance the immune system. I wouldn't say it was significant enough to statistically say it's going to help you get over coronavirus, but it's certainly not going to hurt you if you have coronavirus. So anabolic steroids are fine to take. They don't suppress the immune system at all, despite what some people might say. And obviously they're going to keep you in a positive nitrogen balance. So they're going to keep everything functioning well in your body. So if you're on a cycle, stay on the cycle. If you're not on a cycle, I wouldn't start a cycle now, maybe some HRT, but it's not going to hurt you if you got the virus, and it's not going to make you more vulnerable to getting the virus. And I think that's the key points.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not following us, our handle is official_RxMuscle. Let's go to SC Meadows. Dave, what would you recommend to people returning to the gym once they're open again as far as forming new habits to avoid contracting illness in these times of heightened situation awareness? Or do you have some, humorous predictions? Okay, besides washing your hands more frequently in the gym, I think people will have all different methods of their own PPE, but I might laugh a bit if I start seeing bodybuilders in blue surgical gloves as a new trend.
Well, I mean, you don't have to wear blue surgical gloves. You can certainly get a pair of weightlifting gloves. You know, they sell if you're paranoid. But the key is just don't touch your face. When you work, look, I'm not going to mention who the person is because they'll get insulted. But I had a friend who used to always, all he was doing is, I was always seeing him touching his nose and his face. And he was always all broken out on his face. And I said, stop touching your face. Your hands are dirty. Don't touch your face unless you wash your hands first. So that's just common sense. The gym is the most disgusting place because people sweat. You know, they touch everything. So when I'm working out, I don't wear gloves. I train, but I don't touch my here. I don't touch here. And before I leave the gym, I always go into the bathroom and wash my hands. Okay. Another thing, if you're going to use your phone while you're at the gym, when you get home, you better disinfect your phone as well. Okay. Also, when I go out in public now, if I go to the supermarket or something like that, when I come home, I change my shirt because if people are breathing on you, most of the germs are going to land here, right? This is your main target right here, right in front of you. So you could change your shirt, wash your face and hands and stuff like that. But you know, when you go to the gym, just if you don't touch your nose or mouth or open mucous membranes, you're not going to get the stuff unless someone's on top of you breathing on you and blowing the stuff in your face. So just, you know, try to avoid, you know, people. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when I went to the store the other day, it was like the night of the Walking Dead. No one wanted to make it, and I was just as guilty. It's like you talk to people, but it's like everyone's very quiet, and it's almost like, you know, people are walking around like zombies because people are afraid to talk to each other. And because the media has everyone, you know, on hysteria. But it's obviously warranted because this virus has a very, very easy rate of transference from person to person.
Dave, you're in Florida. I'm in New York, so I can only speak from my personal perspective. But I mean, you go to any of the supermarkets right now, and I mean, the bread aisles completely empty. The only loaf of bread might be that one random like potato flavored whatever that nobody wants to touch or whatever. But you know, I went yesterday, and I'm not exaggerating. 75% of the shoppers, myself included now, was wearing a mask.
Oh, really?
And I mean, it was a very eerie scene at that. And then, people are there's this heightened sense of paranoia, whatever. Yeah. People are kind of like angrily, running their shopping carts through the aisles. So it is definitely something that we're not accustomed to. And the only thing I can say is if you don't need to be out, don't be out. And hopefully this will all subside in the very near future. Here's a very interesting one, Dave, because you talked about sort of like the, I forget the name you mentioned, but somebody you want to bring on who brings some unique perspective to how this affects the world in general. But your thoughts on international finance, internationalist thought, and the main people behind those things. Would you consider, here's a good one, getting Dorian Yates back on to discuss these things?
What do they want me to discuss?
Well, sort of like, Dave, like how this is affecting the world finance. And look, for lack of a better phrase, there are theories as to why this all came about. Like you mentioned earlier, was this released intentionally? Things of that nature where, again, someone like Dorian Yates has some, controversial viewpoints, as far as how the inner workings go. Would he be someone that you would consider bringing on to talk about these kind of topics?
I mean, I guess he has his theories. I could ask him if he's interested. everyone thinks that that they're trying to make us go to a cashless society where everything is done by credit, so they can track every penny you spend and where it's going. There's a million theories out there about the world, the cabal, and the new world order, and the true world government. And I think that I think that these are potentially true stories. I think every story has a little bit of truth to it, but I don't think that that's the reason why this virus was released. I think that this had something to do with the Chinese, and I think it really had more to do with their own situation than our situation. But I think it was something that was going to benefit them in both ways. Because let's face it, if our economy starts failing and the rich countries come in and buy up stuff cheap, it's good business for them, right? So I don't know. Here's the problem with conspiracy theories. There's no way to prove them, okay? And it just gets people more in a panic. And I think that's not going to solve the problem right now. The problem is, let's get through this coronavirus situation. Let's get through this quarantine, and let's get out of it on the other side. I think that's why I think Trump wants to send people back to work, because it's going to stagnate the economy, too much so that even though we might save a couple of lives along the way or make it easier for the medical establishment to handle the virus, we're going to cripple our economy, and we had an economy that was doing very well prior to this. So let's leave that to the politicians to figure out. From the perspective of you, me, and the other bodybuilders out there, we just want to get back to the gym. That's all. So figure out how we can get back to the gym, and that's to follow the instructions that they're giving us now. It's not like we're not going to get our rights back, and we're not going to be able to go back to school and the gyms again. We will. It's just going to take some time until this thing slows down. And like you said, your wife knows. She's in the hospitals. It's overrun right now. We can't have, double the population that's in the hospitals now going to the hospitals because there's nowhere to put them. So that's what it is. We're on a slowdown phase. And how long it's going to take, people ask me that all the time. Do you think we'll have a season? Do you think there'll be an Olympia? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows at this point. We have to kind of play it by ear. The good thing is that these viruses tend to, once they die out and slow down a little bit, they don't usually pick up again. So I think we're waiting to see that drop in the graph, so to speak, kind of like what happened in China now. China doesn't really have any new reported cases. They had a very, very severe quarantine over there, however, but I think that we could achieve something similar to that, even if it takes an extra couple of weeks to do that.
I'll take one more question, I guess, relating to this situation, and then we'll try to get, off the topic a little bit. It's from Sunny Aurora. They have said that, and you're going to have to help me with the pronunciations, hydrochloroquine?
Yeah, chloroquine, yeah.
All right. And azithromycin works on the virus. Do you still, so I guess that's one part of it. Zinc, is it essential to fight the virus? Also, is it important to take some sort of a combination of the, discuss, I guess, sort of like the medicines that have been used for malaria that they're discussing right now, and then I guess if you want to expand a little bit about zinc and its virus fighting properties.
Yeah, I kind of spoke about that also in the video I just released, and I talked about it 2 weeks ago when we released that video, should you go to the gym? I don't know, and a lot of people saw that. A lot of people have been telling me, hey Dave, I heard you talk about this before anyone did. And I wasn't the first person, I just happened to see it and I understood it and I try to explain it. When a virus comes into your body and it gets into your bloodstream and it goes to, it's not really, a virus is not like a bacteria or it's not a living organism. So it can't replicate on its own. A living organism is defined as an organism that can replicate, okay, and reproduce. Viruses can't reproduce. It needs to use our cells or a host cells to reproduce. So what it does is it gets into the bloodstream, goes to the cell, attaches to the cell membrane at a receptor we talked about earlier, and it injects its DNA. This virus actually uses RNA rather than DNA to reproduce. It injects its RNA into our cells, and it takes control of the cell and uses our protein synthesis machinery in the cell to replicate itself. And the enzyme it uses as the main replication enzyme is called we call replicase. Zinc has been shown to inhibit the replicase enzyme. So it stops the virus from replicating. If the virus can't replicate and reproduce itself, our immune system will just eat it up and that'll be the end of it. So it's much easier to get over it. What normally happens is it replicates itself a gazillion times, then it blows the cell up, and it releases all these millions and millions of particles, and then it goes and does it again and again and again, and then that's why eventually some people will die from that, because it will take over their whole body. Most people's immune system can take care of it. The problem is that our immune system overreacts to this virus, and it actually incites chaos inside the body from a cytokine standpoint, from a chemical standpoint. And so sometimes what happens is the body's immune system starts attacking itself, because it loses track of what's going on. So that's not good either. But so zinc stops the replication of this enzyme. The problem is that zinc is a positively charged ion, and it cannot get into the cell. The only way it can get into the cell is if we use what's called an ionophore. That's something that opens up a hole basically in the cell where positively charged ions can go through. Chloroquine, which is a form of quinine, happens to be a great ionophore, and it enables zinc to get in. So they've been using chloroquine prescriptions. It's a prescription drug. It's usually they're using about 500 milligrams 1 to 2 times a day in conjunction with zinc therapy, okay, to basically inhibit the replication of this virus. If you don't have the ability to go to a hospital and get a prescription, or maybe it's not available because everyone's using it, just go and use diatonic water. You can drink 6-8 ounces 2-3 times a day, taking a zinc supplement or V-mineralized, which has that in there already in a chelated form that's absorbable. And that will, at least if you do get the virus, slow or possibly stop the replication of it long enough for your immune system to gobble the stuff up. And that's why they're using that. Now, they've added azithromycin to that because they find that it's an inhibitor of protein synthesis. So it seems in conjunction to work a little even better. I don't know anything about in terms of, I haven't seen the statistical results with the azithromycin. I just know that logically, from a theoretical standpoint, and we're seeing it in practice as well, the zinc and the quinine combination seem to be very potent. As a matter of fact, in Japan, they got rid of almost all their cases using that combination. And look at Italy. Italy didn't have access to that, and they had the chaos that ensued and that's going on there still today.
Time is Muscle has a, I guess, radical solution to bodybuilding and the scheduling. The English Premier League, Dave, which obviously is one of the first major soccer leagues to suspend their league play, they're discussing essentially what would be a 2-week festival-style schedule, basically where they would have games more or less every day within a 2-week span to try to finish up the Premier League schedule. What do you think about something in the lead up to the Mr. Olympia? Should the IFBB Pro League resume in mid-August, daily shows for the majority of the month from Mr. Olympia qualifications right up until the week of the Olympia? Says he thinks it would be incredible for the sport considering the pandemic.
Yeah, the problem is people have to work. To have 14 days of bodybuilding contests seems a little crazy. I don't think it's practical. I think what's going to happen, luckily for bodybuilding, is that we can get a special invite system going. And let's say we do get maybe 4 to 6 shows in before the Olympia. That'll open. The problem is if a person wins more than one show, it takes away some of the qualification spots. So I think what you're going to see is we'll have a few shows before the Olympia, and then the rest will be special invite. And that will be acceptable, I think, given the circumstances. And that's what special invites are for. So of course you're going to invite your best guys, right? I mean, you're going to invite Ruli Winkler to do the Olympia, right? If he wants to do it, even though he's not qualified. You're not going to leave him out, just like some of the other top guys, you're going to want to get in that lineup. And so I think that everything will work out in terms of assuming that we can do the Olympia, assuming that everything's under control by September. I hope so, because that's a long ways off right now. I think once we hit the summer, the virus is going to slow down a lot, and I think we'll get it under control, but there's no knowing right now. So at this point, everything we're doing is just speculating and guessing.
Coleman Lucas, as a bodybuilder, have you ever used resistance bands in your training or other powerlifting techniques like chains or boxes? Do you think it's valid for building muscle?
I think anything is valid for building muscle if you use it and employ it. If you're not doing anything, okay, and you're sitting home because you have no weights, I know that bands are going to be better than using nothing, okay? Now, I would use bands for like leg extensions, leg curls, stuff that it's hard to do at home unless you have a machine. If you got dumbbells, you can do chest, biceps, triceps, forearms, back, shoulders. You can add to the back workouts the pull-ups. You can add to the chest and shoulders, tricep workouts, your push-ups and dips. You can do lunges with walking with dumbbells also for legs. There's a lot you can do. There's so much you can do that you can actually go too crazy and overtrain if you don't watch it. So pick 3 or 4 good exercises that you can do, and if you don't have that much of a choice, then do more sets of what you can do, and stop making excuses. I have a client who's like, well, I can't do anything. I'm very depressed. I'm home. I'm like, well, guess what? You're gonna look like a fat shit when you're done because you're making excuses that you can't do anything. You don't even have anything going on during the day. You can't go to work. You're sitting at home all day on your butt watching TV. I mean, this person is complaining to me they don't have time to go to the gym because they work so much. Now they're not working and they're not even working out. How stupid is that? Take advantage of this time. Go outside, walk, paint your house, whatever you got to do. A couple businesses around here that can't open are doing remodeling now. It's a great idea. There's downtime. Who wants to? You can't remodel if you have a restaurant and it's open, right? But if you can't open the restaurant, now they're changing. They're painting. They're doing the floors over. They're remodeling. It's a phenomenal idea because eventually, guess what? The stores are going to be open again. You're going to go back. Everything's going to open up again, and life will resume. Don't be the guy or girl who is behind the 8 ball because you were too lazy and depressed about the world situation. It's not your situation. Your situation is to take care of yourself at home. Let the politicians and the doctors handle the hospitals and the world affairs. Your job is not to sit home and watch news 24/7 and be depressed. Because remember, desire summons life force. If your desire is to listen to negative crap all day long, that's what you're going to summon into your life.
Time for a couple of more questions. One from Anas Zaidat. Dave, here in Egypt, raw whey has become very popular. It's extremely cheap, and many influencers use it. Is it okay to consume it? Does it have any effects on kidneys whatsoever? The brand names are Hilmar and NZN.
I don't even know what is he talking about? Raw whey?
Raw whey. So like raw.
Oh,
yeah.
Raw whey protein. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like grass-fed protein. A lot of people sell this New Zealand grass-fed cow whey protein. Here's the problem. Whey protein isolate is whey protein isolate. It's just protein. When you have like a raw protein or you have a grass-fed, usually the benefits come from the fats. So in other words, with the grass-fed cows, they have a lot of omega-3 fats in them, but there's no fat in whey isolate. So the protein is the same. Now, I don't know anything I haven't really looked into what this raw whey would be or raw whey protein is. But to me, protein is protein. I mean, I don't know what the benefit would be of it. And I might be speaking ignorantly right now because I haven't really explored it or researched it. But a lot of times people use gimmicks to sell stuff. I remember there was a company called, remember VioPro? I forget the name of the company. It was out of Colorado. They had a goat whey. And it was really good. I actually liked it. I thought that was a good idea, but that was a different species. It wasn't milk protein. It was goat protein, and goat whey has less lactose just by nature. So they were able to produce a goat whey that didn't bother people's stomachs as well. It probably was more expensive to make, and I think that's probably why it didn't make it. But it was a good idea. That to me was a good idea. That was an innovative type of thinking type of situation. But the reason why whey isolate is so popular is because it tastes the best, and it's got the best profile from a biological standard, from a biological value standard, and from an absorbability. And if you use a good whey protein isolate with a very high yield, kind of like similar to what we use with Species Nutrition's Isolyze, it doesn't bother people's stomach, and they get a very good response from it. They can use it multiple times a day, and it's great. If people are getting good results with this raw protein, then I say go for it,
Dave, I know we discussed you were going to record a training from home video from your own home gym, so that is something to look out for. And I know we've had this topic of conversation bandied about now for the last 2-3 weeks, but to put a bow on this, your top, there's from SBall95, your top 3 at-home workouts for those that are stuck at home. So top 3, your go-to top 3 workouts at home.
Yesterday I did biceps and triceps with dumbbells. I did curls, one arm at a time. I did hammer curls. I did overhead tricep extensions. I have a cable machine at home, so I cheat. So I did reverse grip, pull downs, and push downs, one arm at a time with the cable. If I didn't have that, I would do dip. I would get 2 benches, or I would get 2 chairs, and I would do dips. I would do dips for my triceps. So I would do overhead dumbbell extensions, and I would do dips for my triceps. That would be my tricep workout. So, and then I did last night. Well, that was 2 nights ago. Then last night I did back. So I did pull-ups, which I have trouble doing because I'm still not strong enough to do a full pull-up. So I have like a bench I stand on. I kind of give myself I cheat a little bit. But if you have a if you have a training partner or someone there, to even your wife or even my son was giving me a little push to do pull-ups. That's the greatest. But if you don't have shoulder problems, you'll probably be able to do sets of pull-ups. I would do them until you can't do them anymore. In other words, most people can't do more than 5 or 6 of them. Do 8 sets of it if you can do it. Do them until you just can't pull yourself up anymore. Your body will end the set. I have I have a cable machine, so I was doing some rows or bent over rows using the cable, the low cable. If I didn't have that, I probably, once again, if I had a dumbbell, I would do rows. Look, I've done rows. At my heyday, I used to do 200-pound dumbbell rows very easily. A 50-pound dumbbell row for me is very, very, very light still, even with my shoulders. But I can make it feel like it's 100 pounds because I do slow and I squeeze and I control the way down, and that's what you have to do. You have to do workouts like that. Once again, it's going to be hard for you to get enough training in if you don't have some dumbbells. But I'm telling you, you could find dumbbells, and if you not, buy them new online. And I told you for that adjustable rack, a 50-pound dumbbell you can do a lot with. And if you have like 30s, 40s, and 50s, you can do everything related to arms, side laterals, front raises, rear delts. You can do all your shoulder presses. A 50-pound shoulder press. There's not many people that need to use 100-pound dumbbell presses to get good results. There are some guys that are very strong that can do that, but I'm talking for most of the people watching this show. You can maintain your muscle doing 50-pound dumbbell presses, and really squeezing, doing side laterals. The side laterals are almost more important than the shoulder presses when you have muscle already. So I would break it down to arms, back and shoulders, and then chest and like legs. That's how I would group it up into 3 workouts like that. And I would probably do them every 5 days. So like you're on a 5-day split type of thing. So you're doing 3 days of training, 2 days off, and then repeating that. So it's not really a weekly split because you're really not doing the intensity of weight that you would in the gym. So I think you can do it more frequently. That's at least how I've been structuring my training. Now you can do air squats, you can do lunges holding the dumbbells, you can have people sit on your back while you're squatting, but just hold on to something. Don't try to squat with someone on your back and balance at the same time. It's a little hard. Try to hold on to like the side of a couch or hold onto a windowsill or something like that. That's how I do it. And believe it or not, you get a pretty good workout. Once again, we want to stimulate the muscle. People are panicking already. I can't pay bills. I haven't been to the gym. It's been a week. 10 days that we've been on this quarantine. Calm down. Talk to me in a month. Right now, it's not the end of the world. Do what you can do just to keep your routine going. Because once you miss, I always tell people this, if you miss a week, it's easy to miss a month. And once you miss a month, it's easy to miss 6 months. So don't fall into that routine of not doing anything.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, on behalf of this entire RxMuscle team, stay safe, keep your family safe, do what you need to do during these uncertain times. Also, reminder, the interview with Frank Zane going up either today or tomorrow, and of course, keep it locked for the latest episode of Iron Rage and Lee Priest's latest thoughts from lockdown. For Dave Palumbo, our producer Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.